Hello, and welcome to I Do in the Caribbean Facebook group. Today we have a special guest, Gavin Simmons from Sandals Resorts, and he's going to talk about sandals and why you should consider having your destination wedding there. Hi, Gavin. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I'm in my, as you see in the background, my office. I am the representative for Sandals and Beaches Resorts here in New York, which means I'm always racing around New York. My office is my vehicle, but
So you're coming from your home office.
I'm coming from my home. I'm getting the last few things together because I'm actually going down to Turks and Caicos on Friday. So I'm very excited about that. I haven't seen that resort in quite a while, and I want to see how the action works during the pandemic. We have been open since July. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, July of 2020. And we have been very aggressive about making sure that as far as the client goes, as far as you go, when you come down, it feels like a regular, day at Sandals, a regular day at beaches. You're supposed to feel at ease because you're on vacation. But at the same time, we're very concerned about our clients' health and safety. So we go over and beyond. In fact, some islands, we actually set the bar as far as with the protocols that other resorts are to follow. Perfect example would be Antigua. That was the first resort we opened since we closed everything down because of the pandemic. And we actually created a set of protocols called the Platinum Protocol of Cleanliness. And that is actually the baseline that the other resorts on the island follow, based on what we based on us leading the way. So it's very much a concern for us as employees, but for the folks that come down to the resort, it feels like any other day in the Caribbean, which is the whole point. We want to make sure that you don't feel like you're coming down to a hospital.
I must say, I did go to Sandals South Coast in June, and I really found
Oh,
it that I felt at ease because, all the employees wore masks. So that was mandated, which is good. And if you're in a public place, they want you to wear a mask just to protect each other if you're in a closed public place. But if you're in the open, you are free to, unmask yourself and just be social. So it was very nice to feel a little bit relaxed when I was there. So, I do really do take the protocols very seriously because, you're protecting everyone's health and you want everyone to feel safe when they go on vacation. So that's definitely good to know.
absolutely, absolutely. And we have to also be mindful that every single nation where we operate, or even any of our competitors, every single nation where we operate, these islands aren't just part of the United States. They're not an extension of Key West. They are their own individual nations with their own rules and protocols. And that's why it's so important that when you do book a stay at Sandals, that you always go through your trusted travel advisor. Because at the end of the day, why do all the research yourself when there's someone there for you to do the research for you and to, basically make sure you don't have to lift a finger, you don't have to give a second thought to what you need to do in order to have a great time. That
Definitely,
makes sense.
yes. Yeah, because protocols are always changing and you really need to know, as I said, there's a new protocols that I think that are coming out in November for unvaccinated and vaccinated people. So it's definitely always constantly changing, but also have to know the different protocol for different countries. Like each country or each island is so much different. Their protocol is different. You have to know specifically what it is because you won't be allowed entry into the country if you don't follow those protocols. So that's good to know. Do you want to get into why sandals is so good? You're on mute.
I said absolutely, I would love to. So let's talk about why Sandals is the world's only five-star all-included vacation. And I mean the only. There are some resorts out there that may be five-star. There are some resorts out there that may be all included, but we're the only five-star luxury included resort on earth. We go the extra mile to make sure your expectations are exceeded. And that's why people come back to New York every time on that direct flight via JetBlue into JFK with a smile from ear to ear, ready to come back. And I have to say, this one slide we need to update because I understand that come December I'm going to be headed down to the Travel Weekly Awards in Manhattan to pick up another trophy. So 28 years in a row consecutively we've been winning awards for best service, best vacation, best family vacation. We are consistently showing everyone the way to do hospitality. So when you come down to Sandals, you will have a blast. You'll have the time of your life, and honestly, you're going to have an experience that you were not expecting. But let me get into the nitty gritty about the differences. So there are two different resorts. There's Sandals Resorts and there's Beaches Resorts. Now we have 19 individual properties. We're on 9 different islands, but ultimately what we do is we try to do Jamaican style hospitality for two people in love on every island where we operate. So when it comes to coming to any island, you're going to feel an experience that goes over and above what you were expecting. But just keep that in mind. You're going to see a lot of different room categories. Some of these rooms and some of these suites are the size of a 3-bedroom apartment here in New York, certainly larger than my 2-bedroom apartment, but they're really just for two people. We call some of our suites Love Nest suites. These are our premier and most unique room categories at our resorts. I think we're most famous for our over the water bungalows. We have over the water bungalows in Jamaica and in St. Lucia. Most of them are in Jamaica, but we have them in Jamaica and St. Lucia. They are a whole lot closer than over the water bungalows. Perhaps if you were thinking about going to Bali or somewhere in the Pacific or Indian Ocean, all of our over the water bungalows are about a 4-hour flight away. And if you're lucky enough to be headed down to Montego Bay, they're really close to the airport as well. But of course, we have other unique and spectacular Love Nest suites at all of our resorts. I'm partial to the Romeo and Juliet suites, which you see to your left. That's where you have your own private pool that sits in between two different rooms within your suite. That's the bedroom on one end, and what you can't see in that photo is there's like a den and dining area and entertaining area on the other side, which is also where your very own butler will bring you dinner from breakfast, lunch, or dinner from any of the resort's restaurants. You don't have to lift a finger. You don't even have to walk to the restaurants at the resort if you don't feel like you want that experience. But of course, if you would like to dine at any of our restaurants, many of our resorts have up to 2 dozen. You can always have your butler make a reservation for you. You have access to all the amenities at the resort. Now, there are 3 different types of rooms at Sandals. They're the entry level rooms, which we call luxury, which are gorgeous rooms. They're easily 5-star rooms at any resort or hotel anywhere else. But then you can step it up a notch and get Club Sandals service. Club Sandals rooms include access to the Club Sandals Lounge, which is actually where you check into the resort. You'll have a seat, be treated to champagne, and one of our concierge service members will come and give you an orientation of the resort, explain what features and amenities there are, maybe make a reservation for dinner for you, all of the different things that you would expect a concierge service to do. You don't have to go to that lounge if you don't choose to later on in your stay. You can also just dial into the concierge lounge. There's a button on your phone that calls the concierge desk. You can make reservations for dive, reservations for dinner, reservations for some type of excursion. All of those different things the concierge team are ready and willing to help you with. However, you can take it up one notch further and have access to butler service. Some of our rooms come with a butler, and that butler is not the same as a concierge. So the difference between a butler and a concierge is a butler anticipates. You can ask things of a butler just like you would ask things of a concierge team member, but the butler anticipates. He gets to know what your favorite wine is. He gets to know what you wanted to do on your vacation and try to make it spectacular. He gets to know what those special occasions you're traveling for are and makes them extra special. But of course, if you need reservations for a restaurant, he's got you covered there too. Or if you don't even want to go to the restaurant, you just want to have French cuisine in the dining area of your suite, you can go and bring you the menu and then bring you dinner and serve you and serenade you as you dine. So there are a lot of different things a butler can do, but I have to say I'm going to move on because I could talk
No,
about butler.
Gavin, can I want to go back to the Butler because
Oh,
I've been to a lot of Sandals Resort and I've had many experience with other Butler service. And I
mhm.
must say, Sandals Butlers really do step it up a notch because every time I've been there, my experience has been wonderful. It's always been over the top, unexpected things that I would never have thought of. And I do like the fact that most resorts that have butler service, like they can reserve a spot on the beach or the pool depending on what your preference is. They're gonna come see you, where you're sitting, find you where you're sitting, bring you drinks, bring you
Oh,
lunch. I mean,
absolutely.
it's beyond, my expectations when I do go to a Sandals. Like I like that because I'm on vacation. I don't want to think about anything. So the fact that they're thinking ahead of what I would want is like the best experience that I've had when I've gone to a Sandals resort. So I
You know
must
the little
emphasize, I love butler service.
the floating I don't know what to call them, but they're like they're inflatable circle things that maybe six people can lounge on that float in the ocean.
Yes, I know that.
I'm not sure what I'll call
I don't
them
know
a
what it's
floating
called, but it's
lounger.
yes.
So I once saw, and mind you, folks, butlers are wearing a full tuxedo, right, in the heat. And I once saw a guest and her husband lounging in one of those inflatable loungers out in the ocean, just no cares at all. And her drink was getting low, and I saw a butler roll up his pant legs, walk out there, swap out her drink before she even noticed, and get back to shore. She never saw him swap out the drink. And I stared and watched her because I saw her do a double take
Mhm.
when she reached for her drink and it was full again. And she just had this big wow face on, and then she looked over and he waved and she just gave a huge grin. I mean, it's just little things like that. She didn't ask him. She probably was about to get out of her floaty and go and get her next drink, but she didn't have to even worry about it. The butler was already there. He's just kind of like in the background monitoring what's going on. And I'll give you another story. This is a little off, but this is just an example of what someone can do for you, because he is in this place where you are visiting. He's there 365 days a year. So I once had uh, a trip down to Turks and Caicos, actually. It was in the winter time, and one of the folks that was with me, her daughter was going back to college, and she had my guest's car, and she parked in a handicapped spot, and I guess there was so much snow she didn't know it was a handicapped spot, and the car was towed. Well, the daughter couldn't get her car from the sheriff. This was in Pennsylvania where she goes to school, because the sheriff said that she wasn't the owner. The owner was the young woman who was with me on the trip to Turks and Caicos. And the sheriff didn't realize she was in Turks and Caicos and said, "No big deal, just have your mom send a notarized letter with her license saying that I, Cheryl, allow my daughter to pick up the car from the sheriff." Seemed like it was going to be very
Easy.
complicated,
Yeah.
but it actually wasn't. The butler said, "Oh, I understand what's going on. Don't worry. Just you need a photocopy of the driver's license. So give me your driver's license." And she gave the butler her driver's license, and he said, "Go to lunch." And she said, okay." And she went to lunch. And about halfway through lunch, the butler came over with his personal cell phone and said, "Hi, the sheriff is on the phone. He just needs you to acknowledge one more thing." And she was so confused. But while she was at lunch, he went out into town. He got the license photocopied. He got it notarized, and he faxed it over to the sheriff, because he lives in Turks and Caicos, and
Yeah.
he knew exactly where to go. She had no idea where to go. So it's just those little things that you wouldn't even think of. Hopefully that that situation will not come up for you. But the fact that you don't have to lift a finger, because you have someone who is not only very knowledgeable of the resort, but very knowledgeable of the location where you're traveling, can be very helpful. He is your little senator on property.
Definitely.
But he'll also get you drinks. So I will say one reason before we move, one reason you always are going to notice there's a difference in our butler service as opposed to many of the other folks in the Caribbean who have butler service is because all of our butlers are trained by the Guild of Professional English Butlers. That's the same training program that all of the butlers at Buckingham Palace go through. It's a very rigorous training. It's a very expensive training, and it's a very lengthy training that we put all of our butler staff through. They're usually people who are senior members of the resort staff, and they apply to become a butler from within. On the other hand, if you go to, I mean, I hate to, go into these battle conversations, but if you go to most of our competition, their butlers are just trained by former Sandals butlers. So it's a different process. They should be the same because they're trained by our former butlers, but they're not going through the whole Guild of Professional English Butlers program.
Okay.
I will say that one other perk when you book with us and you go into one of the higher end rooms, butler and higher club level category rooms also receive a different transfer. Now, I didn't mention this before, but when we say everything is included at Sandals, we mean everything. There's a lounge greeting you at the airport that we operate where, there's complimentary champagne, something to nosh on, coffee, whatever you'd like. And everyone gets a transfer to and from the resort. Tipping at our resort is not allowed. It's not that it's not recommended or frowned upon, or it's literally not allowed. So you're on a vacation and so is your wallet. However, the transfer is a little bit different when you have butler service. So on some islands, you're picked up in our complimentary BMW service. On other islands, you're actually picked up in a Rolls Royce. So if you're staying at Sandals Royal Barbados, for example, and you're in a butler level room, you will be greeted by a Rolls Royce at the airport, and you will make a scene from the airport all the way to the resort.
That is good to know.
We have a lot of inclusions at the resort. I think one thing that you should expect is, of course, our water sports. We have kayaks, we have sailing, we have hobby cats, we have snorkel equipment. All you need to do is go over to the water sports desk, tell them what you want, and they'll hand it right over to you. There are no time limits. It's just come and have fun. All of our resorts have lots of different water sports options. It does vary from island to island. I can tell you, everybody has kayaks, everybody has sailboats, but some of the other equipment depends on the island and the nature of that, the character of that resort and the character of that island. But you can expect water sports at all of our resorts, and it's all included. There's no cost for anything. I love it. But the biggest water sport inclusion, I love snorkeling. It's a lot of fun. But scuba diving is more fun. So if you
I
happen
was
to
going to
be,
say the same thing because
it's
lot of resorts charge you for scuba
a
diving.
lot of resorts charge you for scuba diving. Absolutely. I happen to be a PADI certified diver, and usually when I go to a resort that's specifically for diving, there's still an additional cost of about $200 or so per dive. At Sandals, you can dive twice a day on us. We have amazing equipment. We actually have Newton boats, which really surprised me. So we have fairly new Newton boats, new equipment. It's always up to the highest PADI certification as far as standards for sanitization and upkeep. And you always dive with 2 dive captains. So it's a wonderful experience. It's very safe. They dive 300. Well, I was going to say 365 days a year, but so they dive about 366 days a year. They are always out there working very hard. They love what they do. And the character of our dives really does depend on you because they know the island very well. They live there. So if there's something specific you wanted to see, you wanted to check off, they can help you with that. And if you've never been diving before and you want to have that experience, we also offer PADI training. We are in the top 5 for PADI organizations on this hemisphere. And the other organizations are not resorts. We're in a top 5 PADI organization because we monitor safety first and we go the extra mile to ensure that everyone has a great time and a great experience when they're down at Sandals. So I strongly suggest that. But we have land sports too. We have tennis courts. Many, but not all of our resorts have pickleball courts, basketball courts, volleyball courts, beach volleyball courts, pool tables. I promise you that if you are a tennis aficionado and perhaps maybe your spouse is not, I promise you that you will find someone willing to pick up a match with you down at our resort. I haven't gone down yet and not played a game of tennis with a complete stranger. Just putting that out there. If you're a golfer, we also have some resorts with golf courses right on the property, but we also own some golf courses on some of the islands where we operate. And if we own a golf course, you can come down and play a few rounds on us. Greens fees are included for Sandals guests at our Greg Norman golf courses. So two resorts that we operate that have golf courses right on the property are Sandals Latak in St. Lucia and Sandals Emerald Bay in Great Exuma in the Bahamas. And Sandals Emerald Bay, that's the golf course you're looking at in the center of this photo. And that golf course is on the coast. It's a PGA Tour golf course. So the PGA Tour comes through every January. So provided you're not coming on the dates of the PGA Tour, you can play on one of the most beautiful golf courses in the Caribbean. And I have to say, and it's an experience that's very similar to Pebble Beach. It's a little bit more challenging than Pebble Beach, but it's very similar with the waves washing up against the rocky coast on some parts and the beach side on the others. And you're not paying $500 a round like you would at Pebble Beach because that's included. It's part of the resort. Now, if you want to go off resort, and you must go off resort and experience the culture of the island. If you want to do that, you're going to go through Island Routes. Island Routes is our sister company that manages all of the different excursions, whether it be catamaran cruises, driving around town in our Mini Coopers, swimming with the pigs in Great Exuma in the Bahamas, or taking a dunk in the mud baths of the volcanoes in Grenada. Wherever you're going, you want to experience the island itself. You don't want to spend the entire time at the resort. And Island Routes helps you do that. They are all over the Caribbean. They're actually not just on the islands where we operate, but they are, of course, at every single one of our resorts. And they're there to make sure that you have a safe and awesome experience. So definitely reach out when you're there, but maybe book it before you go because there are some excursions that fill up pretty quickly, especially if it's extremely unique to that island, like swimming with the pigs. Now, if you're at any of our Sandals resorts, you also want to consider coming over to the Red Lane Spa. Now, if I recall correctly, you have a VIP event coming up soon next week, correct?
I do.
So with the VIP event, it's a brief webinar, and I'm going to be there too. It's via Zoom, and the whole goal there is that any questions that you have are answered. It's a Q&A session, essentially. It's about a half an hour. And every single person who's on Sandra's VIP event actually gets to claim a $250 spa credit to be added to their reservation as long as they're staying for 6 nights or more. So I strongly suggest considering that because our Red Lane Spa team is like no other resort spa. These folks could easily operate their own separate business. They have a very specific menu for each island that's based on holistic practices that they travel all around the world learning, and their skills go above and beyond expectations every single time. They also have a salon, so it's not just it's not just massages. It's a full service spa. They have a full salon menu as well, and they have a kids menu if you're going to beaches resorts. So I strongly suggest taking a look. They're not just in the beach areas though. So what you're looking at here is some of our beach cabanas on one of our private islands where we conduct those services. But of course, we have a full size salon and spa service building within each of our resorts. Of course, the biggest inclusion that I think more people need to take advantage of is our weddings. Everyone who travels to every adult, let me back that up. Every adult who travels to Sandals for 3 nights or more has the ability to have a customizable wedding on us. There are lots of different ways you can also add on your wedding, but everyone has the basic wedding on us if they would like. Uh, I have to say, our weddings team is pretty impressive. We have a wedding entourage in Miami, which used to be a separate wedding planning business that the company bought and folded into ours. They are literally your stereotypical Manhattan wedding planners. I mean, they are top notch, and they can handle everything for you, soup to nuts. Or they can be completely hands off because you have Sandra, who can also do everything soup to nuts. She's amazing. I would argue a little bit better than our team, really. So she can really handle everything for you, but they can as well. And obviously, they're very familiar with all of the different things that we can do at each one of our resorts. But then we have the team on resort as well who do the execution. And together, these two teams are called our wedding entourage, and their services are completely complimentary to every Sandals guest. Now, all of our resorts have all of these different decor items, locations, styles of dining, times to have the wedding. All of these different things, all these different permutations ensure that every single wedding can be completely unique. And we do have the ability to, of course, go beyond what we offer in our wedding catalog. So if there's a certain orchid that you specifically want on every table, we can do that too. If you perhaps want a certain decor item that's not part of the decor items that we offer, but you know how to get it, uh, explain exactly what you want to our entourage, and they'll get it. They'll ship it out. They'll handle all of that. We can do all of that for you too. We really can have a huge wedding. We do Indian weddings all the time. We can have the wedding of your dreams, but if you want a smaller, more intimate kind of experience, we can do that as well. And every single guest that you bring to your wedding earns you what we call bells and whistles. And these bells and whistles you can use to defray the cost of any additions that you chose to add on to your wedding. For example, perfect example, and this is a very necessary example. So everyone has the ability to have a wedding at Sandals. However, if you want to have your wedding at a specific time, at the moment the sun melts into the ocean, that actually comes at a small added cost, and that's called the Kiss Me at Twilight package. However, if you're bringing 5 guests to your wedding, you have enough bells and whistles to apply them towards that package and get that package for free. But we have a charge for that package because, of course, we can only do one wedding a day. Really, only 2 weddings a week are accomplished with this perfect melting into the ocean kind of setting, and that's definitely the most amazing set of photos you will ever see. So you definitely want to do that. But of course, we have lots of different types of it depends on the resort. We have lots of different places at the resort, lots of different venues. So not only do we have a significant amount of conference space, we also have ballrooms at all of our resorts. Some of our resorts have garden gazebos. Most of our resorts have excuse me, most of our resorts have garden gazebos. Some of our resorts have more unique gazebos in the more wooded section. We have areas that are in the open green space. Of course, we have the ability to have weddings on the beach. Some of our resorts have docks, so you can have your wedding on the dock. Some of our resorts have different chapels. We actually have a Catholic chapel at Montego Bay. We also have an over the water chapel at Montego Bay. So some of our resorts have chapels literally over the water where you can actually see through the floor and you can see down into the ocean. Your guests will find this to be a spectacular experience. And all of these options are open to you for weddings or retie the knots, which is what we call a renewal of vows. So you want to walk yourself through all of those different permutations when you have that discussion with Sandra, but we are here to help you out. And our team on resort will actually set everything up for you so you can see it before you come down. And we'll do a video call, which we do very often, just like we're doing right now, and we'll be able to move things around, kind of shift things to make sure it's the way you like it, the way you'd like it to be done. And then, of course, we'll follow up with the last moment screws and nuts when you get down to the resort. But if you'd really like to see things before you make that final commitment, we also have what's called a test drive your wedding. With a test drive your wedding, we bring you down to the resort for 2 days, at a very special rate of $250 a night, which is a steal. It's actually the travel agent rate, and you get to see the resort for yourself, meet the team on resort, see the venue yourself, see all the decor items that you chose, and really make a hard decision on, is this exactly what I want and exactly how I want it to be? Because I understand that sometimes it can be hard to use your imagination on things when you're in a whole nother country. So we make that possible for you at that special rate. And guess what? When you say yes, the cost that you spent to come down for your test drive gets rolled into the as a credit for your wedding. So essentially you're traveling for free, which is really cool. I strongly suggest everybody do that. Even if you already know this is what you want to do, I would still do the test drive just to come down for one extra special trip before you make the most important trip of your life. So did you have any other questions about weddings before I move to the
Um,
most important part of the journey?
no, I don't have any more questions on wedding. I just shared on the screen the website to go on if you want to really know a little bit about, more about booking your wedding at Sandals, or what's included, or just what is included if you're looking to customize your wedding, because there's so many things. Couples tend to have questions like, is this going to be the ideal place? And before you actually um, go to as you said, you can test drive your wedding by going there beforehand and looking at the place to make sure this is really what you want. But also, you can look online and find the different locations that's available at the different resort to see if this is. Do you want a beach wedding? Do you want an over the water chapel? Do you want a over the water gazebo? Like what Sandals offer this particular item. You can actually go on the website and just kind of do a look see to see if this is something that you want to do, or is it intriguing enough. So I just wanted to put this out there to let people know that you can actually do a little bit of research on Sandals itself to know if this is going to be a good fit for you. So I thought it would just be good to put the website out there and let people know this is where they can go to just get an idea of what Sandal offers. And if they have more questions, then they can come to me and I'll be more than happy to answer any of those questions.
Excellent.
Okay.
Well, I feel bad saying this, but this is my favorite part of Sandals. Of course, we're always there to make sure that we exemplify our motto, love is all you need. But when I come down to Sandals, food is all I need. And all of our Sandals resorts have the option to take part in what we call the Global Gourmet Program, the 5-star Global Gourmet Program. And if you're coming down for a wedding, you will have options from all around the world when you're dining around as a guest. But of course, these options can also be incorporated into the catering portion of your wedding for all of your cocktail hours and your dinners after the wedding. All of that is part of our Global Gourmet Program, and it's completely included, no matter what type of room you're staying in, whether or not you're staying in the highest end room or the entry level rooms. Once you leave your room, everyone's on the same playing field. We don't have wristbands. We don't have anything like that. Everyone has access to the specialty restaurants and the simple ones. And the other cool thing I really like about the way we operate is we have a very specific directive to operate as a farm to table program at every single one of our restaurants. So as far as it is possible at the resorts, we do try to incorporate as much as possible uh, things that are coming from local farms, local fisheries, local breweries. We try to make sure that we're making a positive impact on not only our planet by removing unnecessary shipping, but also a positive impact on the finances of the people who live in the places where we operate. We want to be a partner on the islands where we operate. And I really appreciate that because that's not something that's consistent throughout my beloved Caribbean. So when you come down to Jamaica, for example, and perhaps you go to our English pub and you get beer battered fish and chips. That fish is local fish. It's not the more common haddock or the more common fish that you might find as fish and chips up here. If you are getting sushi at one of our sushi restaurants in any of our islands, you're gonna find on that menu that the your typical selection is going to be there. Of course, there's going to be salmon. Of course, there's going to be crab. Of course, there's going to be eel. But a lot of the more local fish types are going to be available as well. And we try to just make sure, as much as possible, we incorporate that. Obviously, on many islands, all the fruits and vegetables are easily sourced. On some of the islands, it's not as easy. Turks and Caicos, I think we're shipping everything in.
And I guess the question is, all the restaurants are available to all the guests. And I guess in some cases you might need reservations because just trying to make sure you get to the restaurant that you want to eat.
Yes. Yes, but at the end of the day, in the event that you don't have reservations and you still really want to dine somewhere, maybe they didn't have any reservations left, I have to say every single restaurant has a bar nearby. I just stop by, say I'd like a table for two, if possible, and they usually say, okay, well there are no more reservations left, but give me 15 minutes and we'll have a table available for you. And I wait at the bar next door. I most recently did that in Barbados. There's a French restaurant on the roof, which is very popular, and it was all booked up, but I really wanted to eat there. So I went over, I told him I'd like a table. I waited 15 minutes at the rooftop bar, and sure enough, with one drink in, my table was ready. So um beautiful time at all of our restaurants and of course all of our bars. We have lots of bars at all of our resorts. If you're in a club or butler level room, you actually have a mini bar in your room that's also completely included, and it'll be restocked every day. But why do that when there's plenty of entertainment at all our bars throughout the resorts? One thing about Sandals is we are a five-star bar, so all of our bars feature premium liquors. For example, if I don't say what kind of rum I want in my rum and coke, it's going to be at the very least an Appleton Estate rum and coke. But if I say I specifically want Bacardi Limon and coke, well then that's what's going to be available and poured into my glass. We have lots of different liquors from all around the world at all of our resorts, as well as beers from all around the world. But of course, there's only one beer I want when I'm at Sandals, and that is Red Stripe. What's really cool is some of our resorts have unique experiences like over the water bars, or in the case of Sandals Ochi Beach Club, we actually have our very own speakeasy down there where you actually need a password to get in, but we have a speakeasy down there where you can come in and have live entertainment and your very own moonshine inspired drink. It's really cool, but there's lots of entertainment at all of our resorts, not even just at the bars. I mean, you come down and usually there's a full schedule of events for you to enjoy, but the character of the resort does dictate these events. And I have to say, you can go to one Sandals and party all night long, whereas you can go to another and it finally gets quiet around 10 or 11, and you'd have to go and find entertainment beyond that point. So it all depends on where you're going and what your interest is for your stay. And that's why it's so important that you talk to your travel advisor, because no two Sandals resorts are alike. That said, let me tell you where we are, because I've spoken a lot about all of the different resorts, um, uh, all of the different resorts amenities, but not really broken down where we are. So we're only in the English speaking Caribbean. So we're in Jamaica, which is where we started 40 years ago. That's where most of our resorts are. But we also have resorts in Antigua, Grenada, three in St. Lucia, and we have a stay at one, play at all policy. So a shuttle moves between all three. Two in Barbados, which are right next to each other. So they feel like one large resort, and you have the ability to enjoy all of the amenities at either, regardless of which resort you're staying in. And of course, we have a resort in Great Exuma in the Bahamas where we have that beautiful golf course. And in February, we will have a grand reopening of our beautiful Bahamas resort in Nassau, which we call Sandals Royal Bahamian. Now, a few months later, in April, we will open a brand new resort, not a reopening, not a remodel, a brand new resort in Curacao, which is called Sandals Royal Curacao. And we also have a special going on with that resort. So if you're booking soon with your travel advisor and you're going down to Curacao, you actually get a booking credit of $1,000 off of your price, and those rooms are all gorgeous. That's going to be a really good time. But we also have beaches. So as I said earlier in this presentation, the difference between sandals and beaches is that sandals is for two people in love. Beaches is for everyone. So children are allowed. It doesn't mean it's a children's resort. It just means that families can enjoy themselves there too. Adults will have a great time at beaches resorts. And we have three. We have one in Turks and Caicos, which is where I'm going Friday, which is our largest resort. There are 5 different villages. There's up to, I think there's 26 different dining options at that particular restaurant. I mean, at that particular resort. Of the 26 dining options, 21 are gourmet restaurants. Lots of pools, lots of action, but most importantly, you have that beach in Turks and Caicos. We're in Grace Bay. It's one of the most beautiful beaches on earth. It's always voted to be within the top 10.
And I've
Now,
been there. It's a really, really nice resort. You'll have to stay there 2 weeks to eat at every restaurant that they have there. It's so large and it's just so much to do at beaches. You don't feel like you don't see kids really. You see them, but you don't really see them, which is
to
good.
this day, I haven't eaten at all of the restaurants at that resort. So I'm going to have to check off the final
Mhm.
few when I go down this week. But yes, as she said before, depending on there's kids there, but they're not in your face. They stick to
The water
um
park.
the water park for the most part. And depending on the time of year, if you go when school is in session, there are almost no children there. I only expect to see a few toddlers when I go this weekend. And if you're in the Key West Village is not an adults only area officially, but because there are only things there that adults would want, it feels like it's adults only. It functions as adults only. So I love the Key West Village. But we also have 2 resorts in Jamaica. We have Beaches Negril and Beaches Ochi Beach Club. I'm sorry, Beaches Ocho Rios, which is near Sandals Ochi Beach Club. Beaches Negril is near Sandals Negril. So what I like about these two options is if you're getting married and you have your wedding at either of these 2 resorts, some of your guests can stay at Beaches Negril and some of them can stay at Sandals Negril. Same thing with Ocho Rios. Some of your guests can stay at Beaches Ocho Rios. Some of them can stay at Sandals Ochi Beach Club or Sandals Royal Plantation, which is also in Ocho Rios, and we'll bring them over in a shuttle for the wedding ceremony and all those festivities. But they can go back to their adults only vacation later on. What's more is if you would like, you could hop around resorts and have your wedding at one resort and your honeymoon somewhere else, especially if you're in Jamaica where there are lots of options. You don't even have to leave the island. So I strongly suggest island hopping. Of the 2 resorts in Jamaica, I love Ocho Rios because that has so much to do in the area. It's a great base camp for exploring the culture and the options in the Ocho Rios area, Dunn's River Falls, even as far as Port Antonio, I would go from that particular resort. Negril, we all love because it has those amazing sunsets, that long stretch of beach, the 7 Mile beach, where you can have that beautiful quiet walk with your special someone at the end of the night. Lots of different things you can do in the grill, but it's really the physical and natural part of the destination that we love there. Whereas Ocho Rios, it's all the wonderful things that Jamaica is proud of, all of the things that Jamaicans have built in that area. So great time at either resort. But wherever you go, I know you're going to have a really good time. Um, I think I should open this moment up to any questions you might have that is specific to sandals or beaches.
Right now we don't have any questions, but I think people are more interested in the weddings and how they go about booking the weddings or getting information on that, which I can reach, they can reach out to me and I can lead them in the right direction on, what is a free, because the thing with Sandals and your wedding is that they don't have wedding packages, which a lot of the other resort has
Hmm.
packages. You get the free wedding, which is, everything you need to get married. But if you want to customize it to make it your own, add your colors to it, that's where the cost is going to come in. If you want videography, photography, if you want a DJ, and then if you want a special location, then it costs a little bit more to get an over the water chapel to get married in or in certain
Correct.
location. So those are really the differences. And I find that the value you get is so much more because you're not paying unless you want to upgrade a menu. The menu you're getting is perfectly fine because it's what's available there. And food is you don't really need to upgrade anything. So it's a really good option if people can afford to look into this to have their destination wedding. So I just
I
wanted
have
you to
to
come on,
say,
right? Mm-hmm,
as a New Yorker,
mm-hmm.
I really appreciate the cost benefit of having a wedding at Sandals or Beaches Resorts. So, two things I'll say on that. One, because our venues are expensive. I mean, the typical venue here in New York is like 20 grand.
Yes.
If it's that cheap, right? And then the other thing is um, the food portion. Catering is one of the most expensive costs when you have any wedding, but especially a wedding here in New York. And one big feature of Sandals is you're at an all-included resort. So the biggest expense of your wedding is already taken off the list, which is the
Right.
catering. We can do everything when it comes to dining, right from our exclusive kitchens here at the resort. So if it's something that's already on the menus of our restaurants, we can take care of that. But if it's something off menu, but it's we know how to make it, we can take care of that as well. I can't emphasize enough. We really go really far outside of the box when it comes to catering, and that's included.
Yeah.
We do that whenever we have an Indian wedding. There's a lot of different dining options there that are not typically on our menus that we can prepare because we have the ingredients.
Yes.
Now, if you require dining that caters to specific dietary restrictions, we can handle that as well. You just let us know in advance. If it requires that we need it to be nut free or gluten free or anything like that, we can do that easily. We're used to doing it. Our teams at every single one of the individual restaurants are run by a very diverse group of very experienced chefs. So and of course there's the executive chef at every resort who handles everything. So they're big on that, do it all the time. So it's a walk in the park for them if you have specific food dietary needs, and if you have religious dietary needs, we handle that as well. We can handle halal, we can handle kosher. The only thing that would come at an additional cost when it comes to dining is if you have very strict kosher needs and your diet needs to come from a kosher kitchen, in which case we're importing food. So that's a rare case that only happens for us about 3 times a year, but we can handle it. We've done it before. That said, the venues, of course, as you said before, can come at an additional cost. But even there, I'm very impressed by the value because, for example, the over the water chapel, I know for a fact is an additional cost of $850.
Yep.
There's no church or chapel in the New York region
That you didn't get that for. Yeah,
that
that's
you
for
can
sure.
get. I
It
don't
is
know
really
what
a
region.
good value. Yeah. I mean, I had my wedding there, and all my guests are even still talking about it because just the experience, because I had it on the private island, Royal Caribbean, the private island. So I had them over there by the Thai restaurant. So, I mean, it was just nice to have that private location and everybody came over on a boat. So just the idea of just showing them something different made it an experience that people are still talking about. So, you know, I think there's a lot of value in having a sandals wedding. I mean, the only down part, and I'm gonna be honest, is sometimes the price of the room might be a little bit costly, but you have to look at the value that you're getting with that because you're getting everything included. So, and then the wedding would cost a lot less if you have a Sandals wedding. It's just a matter of, can your guests afford to attend the wedding? But unless you put it out there, you'll never know. So people
Yes.
kind of shy away from that, but they should really look at the value they get in if they're having a Sandals wedding. So that's what I wanted to actually just say,
I
that you really need to look into it.
I think the average person is going to be pleasantly surprised because I think that is an apprehension that I hear often from brides. They are unsure if their guests will come, and and sometimes more guests than they expected end up coming. Now, I have to say I've been a guest to a few destination weddings, and listen, your guests a lot of your guests are going to come because they want to come down and they want to see you off, and they're going to come down because it's going to be their vacation. But you might not get that toaster oven that you were hoping for. You might not get all of the
Yeah,
same gifts that you would have gotten because they're spending their money on the trip down. But
it's
generally
worth it.
speaking, it's worth it, and they will
Yes.
be excited, and they will thank you. You had guests that thanked you for inviting you,
But
right?
yeah, yeah, and the experience. So it's the experience you're trying to give them, and then you're getting, I just said, you're getting value for the money, because there's so many different places you can have your wedding that's free on the beach. All the beaches are free. You don't have to pay anything
Mhm.
extra. It's just if you want that decor and a little bit, you have to pay extra for that. But you can get married on the beach, and you can really, book 3 rooms, and all your guests that stays on property are included. You're not paying additional for them to attend the wedding, which is the
Absolutely.
biggest part, because most packages include 20 people, and each additional person is like $100 and something dollars. So, if you have
Oh
50
wow.
people, yeah, it can be a lot when you look at the other packages and what you're getting in the packages too. So, to me, it's a good value for your money if you're really thinking of doing a Sandals or Beaches wedding. Well, Gavin, thank you so much. We've been here like 51 minutes. It's a
Hey,
long,
for a little bit.
but I mean, I wanted to give people information on Sandals Resort and where to find information if you're thinking of having a destination wedding, but they're not sure where to go, and what are the values you're getting if you do choose to go to Sandals Resort. So thank you so much for coming here and sharing all about Sandals with us. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for coming by, everybody. Thanks for having me, Sandra.
You're quite welcome.